welcome to our ELL Conversation course. This is our Winter 2021 session. Before we begin, I thought I'd give you a little bit of information about how this course will work. If you're registered with us, you've been paired with a fluent English speaker who will be your conversation partner for the next 8 weeks. Every week, you'll receive an email with a link to a video and a packet of materials to go with that video. So each week, we will have a theme or a topic, and you'll watch the video, which will be a conversation between two fluent English speakers on that topic. When you watch the conversation, if you like, you can watch with subtitles. You can see what we're saying on the screen. If you go down to the button on YouTube that says CC. If you click that button and say English, you'll be able to see the subtitles on the screen. Or if you prefer, in your materials packet that will also be in that email, there's a full transcript of the video so you can see everything that was said. Also in the materials packet are a series of conversation questions. And these are questions that you and your partner will use to practice an English conversation. You'll also have some vocabulary and some idioms and other things that we thought might be interesting related to that topic. So our topics this session will be New Year's and New Beginnings, family, winter activities, transportation, culture and customs, Valentine's Day, food, and education and learning. So we hope that you enjoy our course. And now let's hear our first conversation. That's New Year's and New Beginnings. Hi, everybody, and welcome to the first week of our Winter 2021 session for our conversation course. I'm really excited to get started again. And my first guest this week is Pastor Will. Hi, Will. How are you?
Hi, Jenna. Hi, everyone.
So our topic this week that I thought might be appropriate for this time of year is the New Year's and New Beginnings. So New Year's is the holiday, right? And then a lot of people feel like a new year is a chance for a new beginning as well. So my first question for you is, how do you normally celebrate New Year's in your family? Do you have any special traditions or foods that you like to eat or activities that you like to do?
I would say I don't think these are very exceptional, but usually our family gets together with Becky's family, many of who live in Massachusetts, more on the North Shore. And we try to get together and usually eat a lot of appetizers. So like chicken wings, different kinds of like pot stickers, pigs in a blanket, mozzarella sticks, all that kind of stuff. And do our best to stay up as late as possible to midnight. Most of the adults fall asleep, and these days the teenagers are about the only ones who make it all the way to midnight.
Do you like to stay up on New Year's Eve and wait for midnight for the new year? And did your family let you stay up when you were a kid?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I'm pretty sure that my parents let me stay up as long as we could make it. And I tended to try and make it all the way to midnight. It felt like something special. And I loved to watch on TV when the ball came down at the top of the building. And that always just seemed like a special event. And so I still try to stay up as late as I can. I don't always make it anymore, but it does still feel like a goal and something. I like kind of being awake and present for that first moment of the new year. But then once it turns midnight, I want to go to bed as soon as possible.
Are you doing anything differently this year?
We're doing a modified version. We have family in the town nearby, and so they're going to clear out their garage, and we're all going to get together, spread out in the garage with a space heater and watch football and eat appetizers and try to stay up as late as we can, but it might get really cold the closer we
Mhm.
get to midnight.
Yeah, that can definitely happen. Yeah, I think different families have different traditions for New Year's. I don't think there's one meal or food or thing that's more common than others in America. In my family, um, we usually make lasagna for New Year's Day. That's our tradition. So we're probably going to be making a very big lasagna for New Year's Day. And while we would normally have it with family, we'll probably be just delivering some to our family this year.
Well, you're welcome to deliver some to our house.
It usually makes a lot, so there might be some left over. We'll see. Um, so do you plan to make any New Year's resolutions this year? And maybe you even can explain what a New Year's resolution is if some of our listeners don't know.
Yeah, I think of a New Year's resolution as it's the start of a new year. And so you're thinking about what you did well in the last year, but also things where you want to improve. And a resolution is like a goal, something that you want to work on or improve in the coming year. And they can be about anything. I think one of my typical New Year's resolutions, and it's probably because I'm now age 40 and I can feel myself being very middle aged, is to do something about my physical health. So last year, my resolution was to start going to the gym more regularly. And that worked out well until the pandemic closed all the gyms. So this year, my New Year's resolution is to try out yoga. And I found
Mm.
out that you can, from someone at our church told me I should try, you can do yoga lessons through YouTube. So I'm going to try to do online yoga starting in the new year and try to build up my core strength and flexibility because I've been spending a lot of time just sitting in one position at a computer.
Yeah, I think that's a good one. Yeah, lots of people like to make kind of health related resolutions that they want to exercise more or be more fit. Some people like to try and learn something new. They might say, "Oh, I want to read 20 books this year," or "I want to learn this language," or something like that. So, it's usually some kind of goal, often having to do with your own kind of improvement. Yeah. And let's see. So people also sometimes at New Year's they like to kind of reflect on the past year, and this has been a particularly strange year and a difficult year for a lot of people, I think. But were there any silver linings for you? Any unexpected good things from this year?
Yeah, I'd say the most unexpected good thing is time with family. So, for those who don't know me, Pastor Becky and I, we have three kids, ages 16, 14, and 11. So, two of them are teenagers, and one is on her way to becoming a teenager. And so, usually, they're at a time where they're really busy with friends and doing activities and sports. And before the pandemic, most of our time when we weren't working was spent driving them all over the place. And those are all good things, but they didn't have a very much time to connect with each other or with with kind of as a family unit. And so during the last 6 or 7 months in this year, we've spent a lot of time together as a family. And that's been really rewarding. Each of the kids has developed new nicknames for one another. We've just developed new family habits and games that we play together. And so, while that's been challenging at times, I think it's been really good for our family relationships.
So I have a few questions about the past year. Some of them are a little bit silly and some of them are maybe more serious. So, can you name one new thing that you tried this year?
Well, this might not be the best answer, but one thing that I've done that I haven't done in about 25 years is go skiing.
Mhm,
I'd
mhm,
only done that once or twice in high school, but I went this past year as an adult.
mhm.
And I came back a little bruised and bumped up, but that was a fun experience to do with our family.
Yeah, yeah. Or do I remember that your kids all tried doing longboarding this year? You tried that out
Oh,
as well?
yes, I completely forgot that. I tried longboarding, and so if you're unfamiliar with the longboard, it's like a skateboard but about twice the size. And during the pandemic, two of my kids got longboards and they'd ride them around the neighborhood. So I thought I'd try to be a cool dad who can connect with my kids. And so I tried riding the longboard, around. The challenge of that is if you don't know what you're doing, don't ride it down a steep hill, which I did and sprained my wrist and got lots of cuts and bruises as well doing that.
So maybe first and last time you're going to try longboarding.
I'm gonna stick to flat surfaces for
Yeah,
now
yeah.
and always wear a helmet.
Yes, important. Um, hmm. Can you think of the best meal that you had this year, or at least a really good meal if you're not sure which one was the best?
That's a great question. So this one's fresh in my memory because it just happened recently. But usually I don't do much of the cooking. Becky does a lot of the cooking in our home, and also our son Beckett, who's 14, but is a very accomplished chef who loves to cook and be creative. So I usually don't do too much cooking. I more focus on the cleaning up after dinner. But on Christmas, Becky purchased a really big um, roast, tenderloin roast, and I looked up all these ways about different ways to cook it, and and I cooked it, and it was delicious, and all of our kids loved it. So that was one of my favorite meals of the year.
Yeah. Congratulations on your Christmas roast.
Yeah, and that actually is now a resolution. As some of you
Ah.
might know, I'm starting a sabbatical, which is kind of a period where pastors take a break from ministry to just focused on their own spiritual and emotional and physical health. And one of my resolutions is to learn to cook some new dishes. So
Mm.
I'm getting a whole bunch of ideas from my kids about what I should
Yeah.
try out in these upcoming
Ooh.
months.
I've got a possible recommendation for you because I know how much you like Tex-Mex and particularly things like Taco Bell.
Yes,
And just yesterday we made it's called like if you want to be fancy a taco torch, but we just call it taco cake, and basically you layer tortillas with like beans and spices and Mexican cheese, and you do that all in like 6 layers and then bake it for 20 minutes. It's pretty easy and very tasty. Just seems like something you might appreciate.
that sounds perfect. I was looking for some kind of Mexican inspired dishes. So please email me the recipe.
I will do so. And I think later this session, Maribel is going to do an interview about food. So you should watch for that one and find
Yes,
out what she has to say.
it was on my list to talk to her to get some more ideas and recipes.
What about the best advice you received this year? Did anybody give you good advice this year?
Some of the best advice I got was from kind of a spiritual director. And a spiritual director is someone who's kind of like a pastor who can offer spiritual guidance and help you listen to kind of what's going on in your life. And his advice was to spend less time listening to all the things that other people think about me and spend more time listening to what God says about me and what I should be doing. And so that was really helpful this year.
Yeah, that sounds like good advice. Hmm. Now let's think about maybe next year. Um, and is there, you already talked about a new skill that you want to learn next year, that you want to work on learning some new recipes to cook. Are there any places you want to visit next year? I know this year most of us didn't get the chance to visit as many places as we would have liked to.
Yeah, I have a lot of places I'd like to visit. Becky and I actually this past summer were planning to go visit a lot of different places, and a lot of those got canceled. So one of the things I'd like to do is when I was really little, I was born in Southern California and lived there till I was 6, but I have very faint and fuzzy memories of what that was like. And so one of my goals this year is to travel to the West Coast when it's safe and when it's a safe to do so. And I want to rent a car and kind of drive up the entire western coast of the United States. So that's one place. And then Becky and I would really like to visit Europe. She wants us to go to Ireland, and we'd also like to visit, spend some time in England and France and Spain. So those all might take a lot of, that might be multiple trips, but those are some of the places we're hoping that we can get to at least one of those this coming year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, this is an interesting question, but is there advice that you want to give yourself for next year? Is there something that you want to think about that you think you might want to remind yourself of next year?
My advice to myself would be go a little easier on yourself and make sure you give yourself enough time to rest and have fun and do things that are renewing.
Mm-hmm. It seems like a good idea. And then, is there something that you want to do for someone next year?
That's a great question. So, like I mentioned, my kids are all almost teenagers and feel like they're growing up really fast. So, something I'd like to do for all of them this year is take them each on their own trip, one on one with me, where we can just have some time to connect and bond, just kind of make kind of our own connection.
Um, so on our Western calendar, New Year's for us is really kind of the end of December into the beginning of January, and it can be different in other cultures. But are there other times of the year that feel like a time for new beginnings for you?
Yeah, I think September is always a time of new beginnings for me. Part of that is so much of our family and a lot of my life we've been on the kind of the academic calendar, which
Hmm.
typically here in the US, kind of a new school year starts in the beginning of September. And then on top of that, my birthday is right at the start of September. So it's naturally a time where our kids are starting kind of a new school year. In my job at church, we're kind of starting, usually starting new initiatives or programs. And because my age is turning, I'm just naturally kind of thinking about a new year of life. So September always feels like kind of a time of new beginnings for me as well.
Yeah, I think I would agree. Even though I'm not in school anymore, I teach a lot of people who are in school. And so September feels like a new time then. And I also have a September birthday. So we have that in common. So it does feel like a time to think about that.
It's a good
Yeah.
month.
Yep. And so does my brother, actually. We're only 10 days apart in September. So we all kind of think about birthdays and New Year's at once then.
Yeah. One of my kids has a September birthday and one on the last day of August. So yeah,
Mm.
it's all for our whole family a time of kind of new beginnings.
Hmm. And then, in addition to kind of parts of the year, it seems like there are kind of seasons of life that sometimes feel like new beginnings. Can you think of any times in your life where it felt like, wow, I'm really starting something major or starting something new?
Oh man, I've had a lot of those. I- I'll go backwards. I think right now I just turned 40, which feels like, at least sometimes in American culture, feels like kind of a halfway mark in life. Though all of my grandparents have lived into their 90s or 100, so it's probably only about a third of the way into my life. But I've been doing kind of my career or vocation for about 15 or 20 years. So this seems like a natural point to at least pause and reflect on how life is going and what direction it is. Um, but other new beginnings, when I got married, was felt like a new beginning and a new way of doing life. But that was many years ago. Becky and I actually just yesterday celebrated 19 years of marriage. Um, and then I think when we started having children, which was 16 years ago, that felt like a new beginning, a new way of doing life. And then other new beginnings were when we've moved geographically, when we've moved to a new place. And so it was about 8 years ago that we moved back to Massachusetts, and that felt like a new season. And then when we moved again into the home we live in now here in Acton, that also felt like a new beginning. So big moves or big life changes all feel like I'm kind of restarting in a way.
Yeah, yeah. I think that that can be true. And I think a lot of times when we have a big life change or a new beginning, we take a minute to kind of think about, oh, how do I want to be the same person in this time? Or do I want to try and assess some things about myself or give myself some advice or try out new things when I'm doing something new? For sure. Thank you for coming and to me today, Will. And I hope that everybody is able to have good conversations this week about the new year and the new beginnings that that might bring. So, with that, I will say bye bye.
Bye.